Ball traded to the Timberwolves, and we have an expert.
Yes, we do.
One of our producers, Bryce, is joining us here. Bryce, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Bryce Lewis, one of our producers here, also an NBA expert. Guys, I think we should just give the floor to Bryce here.
I think so.
Talk about this trade.
Yeah.
It came out yesterday. This is being recorded on a Thursday. It came out Wednesday night that the Hornets were exploring a trade for LaMelo Ball to get rid of him. And then this morning around, I would say 9:25, 9:20, news broke that LaMelo Ball on his way to the Timberwolves. What did you think, Bryce?
I mean, honestly, like you said, we heard about it last night, and obviously I was very intrigued at that moment. And then when it finally happened and you saw the details, you were kind of like, oh, okay, I guess they felt like this is what they need to move forward as a franchise. So, you know, with the Hornets, I think, listen, we heard that they were open to potentially dealing LaMelo last year. Just they wanted to also see how it would look with Khan, Brandon Miller, and those guys. They got to the second game of the play-in, still not a playoff appearance. And listen, one thing I think is important to point out here is they weren't actively shopping LaMelo. I think that they were approached, and then they found an offer that they liked, and they were able to make it happen, which obviously in that return, they're getting Naz Reid, one of the most popular players in Minnesota history, coming to the city and many first-round picks, where I think with LaMelo, you know, it's one of those things where you have to ask that question, you know, could you win with him in Charlotte? I think that's always been the big question. You know, some people have wondered, does he take the game seriously? Is it something that, you know, he's willing to put his blood and sweat into like that? We know the skill. We've seen the highlights. We know that he's a flashy player. We know about his playmaking, one of the best playmakers at point guard in the league. But like I said, that question lingered. And I think for the Hornets, they're kind of entering this new era, obviously, with Charles Lee in the front office and, you know, trying to actually build a sustainable winner here in Charlotte and you know, and in North Carolina in general as a basketball state. So I think they felt like this was the right move to get them there. Obviously, big thing is going to be, okay, what do you do at the point guard position after this? Does this mean Kobe White comes back? Obviously, you drafted Christian Anderson, so is that your 2 point guards right there? Is that going to be good enough from a backcourt perspective? How does this impact guys like Khan? One thing, like I mentioned, Melo is a great playmaker. You know, Khan was able to take advantage of that. How are they going to generate looks for him? Right. And so I think those are just some things that I think the Hornets have to figure out as the offseason goes on. Remember, free agency hasn't even started yet. So we still haven't even gotten to the official second phase of the NBA offseason.
Annie and Ted, I want to bring you guys into the conversation because both of you guys, I would say, are like most of the Charlotte Hornets fan base. I mean, you have some diehard fans, but also you have casual fans who are probably waking up this morning saying, LaMelo Ball?
Yeah.
My kid has LaMelo's jersey. I have LaMelo's. What was, I mean, we were all in the newsroom together in the studio. What did you guys think of this when the news broke?
I saw it literally on Instagram, maybe like the hour before that the talks were happening. We go to bed early, y'all. Like I didn't know about this as much as the NBA fanatics around here. But and so it kind of made me raise my eyebrows a little bit just because he is so well known. I know that he's battled injuries and it's like, oh, Melo's not playing again. He's not playing again. But I feel like this last season when we really started to build that momentum, I think he kind of showed us something different. And I noticed a little bit more like, oh my gosh, he's playing. And like Bryce mentioned, and one of our other producers, Austin, mentioned is how instrumental he was in helping Khan this year. As we know, like he's become a fan favorite too, and he had a great season. So I was a little bit shocked, but again, the NBA and all the intricacies that happen behind the scenes and the trading and the draft picks and free agency, it's not really my wheelhouse, but I guess you just have to trust what leaders decide. I think it just depends on how they shift things around, right? And who kind of takes over that spot.
Well, Jeff Peterson, Charles Lee, I mean, look, they've done a good job so far. Ted, what are your thoughts on this,
so
man?
I'm reserving judgment.
Okay.
Right? Like Annie mentioned, there's still a lot that has yet to be seen. Right, saying, hey, we're not even in free agency yet.
Right.
But it was first like, okay, LaMelo, wait a minute. I did think of the injuries, how many times he's sitting out. And then I looked at the trade and I saw the draft picks that were associated with that. And that's one of the questions I had for Bryce. And I'm thinking is, it looks like the rebuild is still happening, right? And it's so hard. I imagine a diehard Hornets fan with the success you see so far, you're like, oh, we're right there. And it's almost as though the organization just said, not yet.
So it's a 2033 unprotected first-round pick, 3 first-round pick swaps through 28 and 30, and 3 second-round picks. Ted, you're saying maybe still a rebuild.
Still a rebuild. It sounds, or I say sounds, it looks as though they're moving away from LaMelo Ball, clearly, and they're looking to build something new, or maybe around Miller, Knipple, and
so Rebuild maybe, but I'm gonna take your question to Bryce. I'm gonna add on top of it.
Okay, layer that bad boy.
So here's the added layer with this trade, right? And we're gonna get into the NBA intricacies right now. So you have something when you have a lot of money allocated to a player and you trade them, you create something called a trade exception. So a trade exception, and we can't get into all the salary cap things, but money is tight in the NBA to put it in the most layman's terms. So a trade exception allows you to go out and get a player that you would not otherwise be able to afford. LaMelo had a big contract.
Yeah.
The trade exception now, if I'm seeing the reports right, is the largest in league history, a near $41 million trade exception. Bryce, I want to ask you something.
Oh.
There is a star in Boston who has been rumored to move. It's not Jason Tatum. We were actually talking about this yesterday. Do you think a guy by the name of Jalen, who has a contract that could be around there, we have first-round picks to move now because of the trade with LaMelo Ball, is there a chance that we see Jalen come to Charlotte? Would you like it?
I don't.
Okay.
And then the reason why is
Talk to me.
Think about this. Let's talk about LaMelo for a second. We know obviously about the on the floor. We've talked about that so far. But we got to talk about off the court. This man is involved in multiple things.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He, has made some decisions in the public eye that we are like, what is he doing?
He has been on our news station for not basketball
for
reasons.
basketball
Then some
highlights,
franchises look at that and think, can he really be the face of our franchise? Like,
Sure.
you gotta think about that's a real question. Like, if from just a general, do we want LaMelo's face postered in Charlotte for people to look up to? You know, with the stuff we know. You look at Jaylen Brown. Obviously, he's a little controversial. Maybe doesn't do the same things, but after they got eliminated from the playoffs this past year, he was on stream the next day. And I know a lot of people will think, if you're a leader of the team, I don't want my leader on stream the next day talking about flopping and et cetera. And also, he applied to Streamer University, if some people know what that is. I don't know if that's necessarily going to work for Charlotte, because you just traded, like I said, LaMelo. And in Boston, they're going to want Con or Brandon. Okay. And you would definitely include Miles Bridges in that, because I think that's honestly another domino that could potentially fall this offseason. But, now it's like you're just completely flipping the team. And is it going to be for the best? Or is it going to be for the better for the Charlotte Hornets? I think every team right now, especially with the new CBA, wants to build sustainability. I think that's the biggest thing. And so Jaylen Brown's $60 million. He's actually, I have a fact. No team in the last 8 champions, I believe, at the time they won the championship, had a player with a salary in the top 10 of the league. Jaylen Brown's in the top 10 of the league.
Okay.
So would you go get somebody with that money? Because you mentioned Miles Bridges. We know him and LaMelo were friendly. You could argue that the reason why Miles Bridges stayed in Charlotte was because LaMelo made a case for him. So do you see Miles shipped out, and do you see them using that big trade exception? Does somebody else come in this offseason? Or to Ted's point, are we going to enter a rebuild after a year where we exceeded expectations, and many people thought this was a potential playoff contender, not a championship contender, but a playoff contender? Do you really put Charlotte back in time?
It's funny. Now that they have Naz Reid, you could make an argument that Miles could and should stay. It just kind of depends on how they want to go about their front court.
Yeah.
Naz can play the 4 or the 5. You're assuming probably 5 here in Charlotte. But you could make the argument Miles Bridges is a guy who can get you 20 a game. He can hoop.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so, like I said, if you move him, it's like, what are you getting back for him? Is that maybe where you try to find?
So who would you target, man? Put your GM cap on, man. Come on.
Brother, there's not a ton of guards that are like great available. Listen, okay, I'll throw this out there.
Throw it out there. Come on, man.
Shoot, do you call Dallas and see if you can get Kyrie Irving?
Oh.
Do you see if you can get Kai?
I was not.
I would say shoot your
But Bryce was hesitant. He's like, all right, I'll throw myself out.
But he brings up a great point. The Dallas Mavericks have a new head coach, Jason Kidd, out. Dusty May in from Michigan. Andy and I are still reeling over that, being Michigan fans. But you've talked about Kyrie wasn't healthy a lot last season. He could want a new start. They're resetting their timeline in Dallas, right? So you get a guy out to a team that is maybe closer to competing for a championship. You insert Kyrie where LaMelo is next to Concanible. That's a guy who can create for him. Brandon Miller benefits off that. You have the money to. Hey, I don't think they would shy away from taking, another first round pick. You have the capital to do it.
Yeah.
If
Get
you
those
don't
assets
ask,
used.
the answer is always no.
That's true.
So might as well ask.
There you go.
Yeah.
Listen, they're playing chess while a lot of people are thinking checkers. So, like I said, I reserve my judgment.
Right.
Yet to be seen, but
See how it all
if
shapes
this
out.
plays out the way Bryce called it,
Yeah.
shoot, man, we might need to get you a GM candidate.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think it's fair to say that this is not the only wrinkle that we'll see from the Charlotte Hornets this offseason. Again, as Bryce mentioned, free agency is set to pick up. But the major news of the day, LaMelo Ball being shipped out to Minnesota to pair with Anthony Edwards. It has been a great career so far. Some would say we could have got more for LaMelo. Who knows now, but the chapter has closed. LaMelo, best wishes out in Minnesota, and thank you for being a Charlotte Hornet.
Queen City News Plus. Just search Queen City News on your smart TV's app store.